Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing, testing, testing. Okay, so starting the stream here. So this is a new format that I'm experimenting with. I'm trying to become a little bit more professional in how I do these type of things. Hopefully everything goes right. I wanted to be able to get this stream today cut down anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour long. Depending on the number of people who show up and ask questions, it may take a little bit longer, it may take a little bit less time to address these things. But the reason I'm doing or I'm gravitating towards this format is more or less to have a more concise way of doing these tutorials live or conferences or whatever you want to call them. I'm adjusting the sound here real quick so I can better handle these things. That sounds a little bit better. When you come in, if you notice any issues with the sound, let me know right away so I can take care of these, because the reason I'm doing these is because I want to be able to provide these type of talks and instructional material in a way where I don't have to edit the stuff. I want to be able to come in, edit the things, and any mistakes that happen live, it's actually beneficial. You get to see how we address the fixes, and we kind of learn from those mistakes. At the same time, it allows me to be able to do these more often. But Adi, you're first. Welcome to the chat room, guys. Okay, so today we are talking about the K1 template and how to edit these templates. This is a question that was first brought to me by Reese Lee, I believe his name is, and he bought the template, and there was another person, Cindy Segura, who also bought the template a while back, and I had to kind of sit with her one-on-one and explain to her how to edit these things. And I wanted to go ahead and get one definitive video so that I can just point to people how you go about editing these templates. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's see here. Let's switch to the drawing mode here. Here we go, switching to the template. And today we're looking at the K1 template. Now keep in mind, guys, that the templates work pretty much exactly the same way as any other template. So just because we're covering the K1 template doesn't mean that you can't use the same exact techniques and principles on your other templates. So whether you're using the Lusion character template, or you are using K1, B1, which is the Billy template, M1, which is Mojo, S1 is Sean, and some of the other templates available, they're all the same. They all work the same. They're all constructed the same. They just have different body types. So here we are looking at the K1 template. And the reason I call it K1 is because I want to create a difference between what is K1 and what is the character itself. I mean, Kevin is the character that is built off of the K1 base model template. So he is the very first character that came out of it. And let's see here. So what is a character template? A character template is basically a pre-rigged, fully assembled G2 model template in Flash. So this is a template that has had all the sprites pre-rigged, and you know, it's already been configured. It already has the instance names in place. All the technical aspects of rigging this template have already been taken care of for you. So you don't have to do too much in the way of getting the work done. It's already been done. Now you're not going to need any other special tools other than Flash, which is what's used to edit these templates. So let's take a look. Let's do a little tour of what all is inside the K1 template. So also, in order for us to understand these templates in Flash, we're going to pull up the properties panel. This allows you to see the configurations and inner workings of the different sprites and elements while you're working. So for example, here I'm going to select this eye. With that eye selected, I see various properties here, and some of the properties is the position and size, color effects if there's any applied to it. Most likely those color effects will not work inside of the Illusion software itself, inside of CrazyTalk, so we'll ignore that. Filters won't work, so we'll ignore that. But some of the stuff that we are going to focus on is mainly the instance naming. This is a specific type of naming convention that's been created so that CrazyTalk recognizes what it is that it's looking at. So here I have the character's left eye selected, and we have a specific naming convention set up for it in the properties panel, which says left eye underscore 0. That's telling CrazyTalk that this is the 0 angle of the left eye. And in other angles, for example, this one, we click on it, we see this is the left eye 315. So this is like a technical aspect of the whole thing. Now, the templates, each sprite in a template is composed of 2 items. The sprite itself, in this case, for example, the left eyebrow for the 315 angle, and the pivot point. This is the pivot point that is also configured to be the left brow 315 pivot. Now, wherever this pivot is placed, this is where CrazyTalk is going to recognize where the pivoting angle is, the pivoting section for that sprite. So it's important that the template contains both of those items. The sprite that is configured to be a sprite by having that naming convention in place, as well as the associated pivot point, which is a completely separate sprite that also has a pivot point. You don't have to keep these things in mind. The main thing is, when you start editing these things, do not modify the pivot point. Don't edit it, don't delete it, don't remove the name. If you remove the name, you're going to break it, okay? Because it's already been configured for you. Everything's in place. Here is the symbol for the eyebrow. If I were to delete this or accidentally modify it, or if I delete it and then I try to manually type it in, but I type it in with a lowercase letter, CrazyTalk already is not going to recognize it anymore. So as you're deleting as you're editing these sprites, try to not mess with any of the technical stuff. Just worry about the artistic side of it. Edit the sprites, but don't edit the technical stuff, the naming conventions, the pivot points. Don't edit the locations, okay? If I go in here and modify this this pivot point here, for example, this is the face 315 pivot. If I accidentally move this pivot down here, then that's already going to be telling CrazyTalk that when this character moves his head up and down, that it's going to pivot around this section. But this pivot on all the other angles is up here. So it's going to create an inconsistency. Let's try to avoid that, okay? And put this back in place. So the main thing to keep in mind is do not edit the placement of the pivots. Do not change the instance names. So one of the things that I want to start out with is by looking at how Flash itself works. Flash uses something called symbols, and there's these symbols are reusable elements. And I'm just going to quickly show you that here. So I'm going to draw this happy face in Flash. And I'm going to select it and convert it, modify symbol. Let's see, modify, convert to symbol, give it a name, face. So the way that this works in Flash is that Flash has this thing called the library. Once I've converted it into a symbol, which is pretty much the same thing that CrazyTalk recognizes as being a sprite, I can take anything from the library, bring it back into the stage as many times as I want. Now, just because I have 3 different elements inside of Flash doesn't mean I have three different pieces of graphic. This is exactly the same thing. These are three instances of the same symbol. And of course, the symbol is a sprite, so keep that in mind, okay? So when I go into a symbol, there's two ways I can do this. I can go into the library, double click in there, and I can make any adjustments to it. So I'm going to add some curly hair to this symbol. And I'm going to close this sprite, going back to scene one. And you can see, because I edited it, every other instance of that same symbol also has the curly hair. So that's one of the ways that Flash keeps everything optimized. That's one of the big powerful features of Flash. Another way to edit a symbol is to simply click on it and then double click on it. This is going to go into something called edit in place mode. You're editing the symbol in the place where it's located. So I can come in here, add a neck. You can see that the neck has been added to the other instances of the same symbol. I can add legs and hands, arms. So, and if I double click outside of the symbol, it's going to take me back to the main stage. You can see this little breadcrumb thing here. Right here is telling me that it is right now I'm working inside of the face. But if I go back, I double click on an empty spot, boom, boom. I go back to the scene one stage. So now I'm on the outside. I can manipulate these again. So these are three instances of the same symbol. That's one of the most important things to keep in mind, all right? And whenever I edit that symbol, every instance of that symbol is also edited. So let's say I want to change the color. I'll change the color, and everything else is going to become updated as well. So this is the primary thing that I want to focus on and get through to you guys first before we go any further. I go back out and I have that in there. So how does this apply to the templates? The K1 template is built in a very efficient manner, all right? It makes use of a lot of these reusable symbols to save time. So let's take a look at Kevin. Let's say I have the base model, okay? This is the absolute basic template for Kevin, okay? This is the K1 template. Let's say that I wanted to put a tattoo on Kevin's left arm. So I'm gonna take that. This is a symbol, okay? It's just a symbol like I just showed you right now. I'm gonna double click on this arm to go inside of edit in place mode. You can see here on the upper left hand corner that I am inside of the K1 underscore 325th symbol. So here I can edit this any way I want. One of the best ways that I recommend is don't try to edit the main stuff. If you can avoid it, leave it alone, because you might have to come back to that in the future. So instead, I recommend locking the bottom, all these layers here, and creating a new layer in place. In this layer, that's where you can draw your new artwork. So in this thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the Kevin's base color. I'm just going to sample it. And I'm going to make it a little bit darker. And maybe switch over to a little bit more green to give it more of a tattoo type of feel to it. And I'm going to draw. Just going to draw a tattoo. Just like a classic little cartoonish tattoo. Okay, so notice what's happening now. Because this is a symbol that has been duplicated many times to save time and effort, what I'm doing here is, if I go back out, I've literally updated every instance where this symbol shows up. So I created a tattoo on every arm. This might not be what I want. Okay? In many cases, you know, when you're going to be editing the template, you're going to be creating things like shirts and things. So if I'm doing a sleeve, that might come in handy. All right. But if I'm just doing a one item that I only wanted to show up on the left arm, then that becomes a different topic altogether. So what I'm going to do here is, let's go back a step. I'm going to Control Z my way out so I can go back to the raw format. So now I know that every instance of this character, every angle of this character is using the same instance of that upper arm to represent that arm. So if I'm drawing a shirt, let's say we want to do a sleeve. Let's do a kind of a reddish maroonish color. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to add my sleeve right here. And I'm just following along the shape of the symbol. Fill it in. Maybe add a little bit of a background. And maybe add some kind of outline hints. Oops. Maybe with the paint in place mode. Soften it up a little bit. So now I have a sleeve on the arm, right? And as you can see, this character has sleeves on every place where this instance shows up. So I edited all the angles at the same time by exploiting that feature, because technically this is the same symbol. We're just looking at multiple instances of that same symbol. So that saved us, I don't know, an hour or two of work just by having to do that, as I don't have to do it on every symbol. Now, that's one of the optimization things that K1 has over the original dummy template released by Lusion. And as you can see here, this is the dummy template. If I go in here and I edit this template, I add something else to it. Same technique, same procedure. They're using outlines. I try to avoid outlines because there's so many bugs involved in that. If you can avoid it, please do. You'll save yourself a lot of time and effort by just avoiding outlines at all. So let's say I want to do a sleeve. I filled it in. Now notice what happens here. This template, this symbol is being reused on the back angle, but it's not being reused here. It's not being reused here. You can see the 315 angle. None of these are exploiting that reusability feature that Flash has natively. So the consequence of which is that if I want to build a shirt for this character, I have to literally go into every one of these symbols and edit them independently. It's a pain in the ass. So that's a feature that K1 has over the dummy template, amongst other things. Let's go back to K1. So now let's go and let's talk about that tattoo. When you need to turn a sprite into a unique sprite, at that point, you'll use Flash's native feature to simply turn that into an independent sprite. We're going to right click on this sprite. We're going to select duplicate symbol. And we can leave the name intact, or you can name it to whatever you want. But now this is an independent symbol. This has been duplicated. Everything else stays the same. If I go back into this one and add something to him, everywhere else that the symbol shows up becomes edited. All right, but notice that this change did not occur in this symbol. That's because at this point, this symbol is now an independent entity. So let me Control Z my way back, and let's go back and add that tattoo to Kevin's or K1's left arm. I'm going to create a new layer below the sleeve, and here I'm gonna draw this tattoo. And I'm taking my time a little bit more with the drawing of this one. I'm doing that on purpose. Modify, transform, horizontal. So now Kevin has a tattoo, or should I say K1, he has a tattoo on his left upper arm, and because that symbol is independent, it doesn't become added to the other instances of the symbol. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the rest of the shirt to Kevin's body so we can start blending that in. We're going to double click on that torso. Gonna lock all these other layers, and again, I don't like destroying the base elements. If you can avoid it, go ahead and avoid it, but this is totally your choice at this point, because sometimes you're gonna mess up with the new assets and stuff, and it's easier to just delete those new layers and start over with your base than it is to try to recreate things. So I'm gonna create a new layer here on top of everything else. And maybe I don't even want to draw everything like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sample some stuff. Okay, I'm gonna cover that up. All right, I'm gonna unlock these two layers. I'm gonna select that, and I'm gonna select that. So those two layers in there that form the torso. I'm gonna Control C to copy. I'm gonna go ahead and lock them back because I don't want to accidentally modify them. And on the top layer, on the first frame of the top layer, I'm going to right click and select paste in place. So now I have this element back in there in a new layer, and what I can do is I can go in here, select this color, go back in here, fill it in, and now I have that filled in. But I also have a little bit of an outline. All right, so if I want my shirt to have an outline, we can mix up a slightly darker version of that color, or slightly lighter, or not at all. It's up to you at this point. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to make this outline slightly lighter. just barely lighter, barely visible. Just in case there's any overlap, sometimes you can still see that separation. And I think that takes care of that. We can do other things here, like add wrinkles and things of that nature. I'm going to bring in some of these, the chest features. Let's take a look at some of those chest features here. I'm going to hide that, just so I can kind of get an idea of where everything is. Copy. But I'm not going to leave those in there. Get rid of some of this stuff. I'm gonna put this on a new layer just to keep things separate. And let's see, there's a couple things we can do. I'm just gonna lock it and just use like maybe outline mode. And I'll go back to this bottom layer, or in a completely separate layer, really. I mean, if you want to keep everything organized, make it more manageable, you can always use separate layers for everything. I'm going to sample this color again. This time, I mean, I could either go lighter or I can make darker. I'm going to choose to go lighter in this one. This is totally a creative choice on your part, okay? So I know that his chest structure is right there. I'm going to try to follow that outline. Let's see what that looks like. Let's go ahead and delete this layer that we don't need anymore. I was just using this for us as a guide. So now you can see that Kevin's shirt is a little bit more form-fitting. We can see his muscles underneath that shirt. And I'm not sure if that's on the stream itself, if it's showing up. Maybe I need to go lighter just for, just so it can be seen easier on the screen. Let's try to make that a little bit lighter. Let's see how that looks. There you go. So let's go out. And here we have a few edges that are kind of bumping out. We're going to double click here. We'll just zoom in and try to cover up this skin regions as best as we can. So that covers that up. Since that's an independent symbol at this point, it didn't modify that one. So let's go ahead and do that one as well. And of course, you don't have to do it with the sleeve. You can also hide that sleeve part and edit the bottom one instead. So I could just go in there and just delete that section so it doesn't show through. We'll turn on that sleeve again. It's going to be covering that up so we won't really see it. It's a little slight little corner there. Let's tweak that. There we go. That should fix it. There we go. So now we have a shirt for Kevin. And if we notice that the back is not the same symbol, so we'll have to do our own edited individually for that one. Since we couldn't possibly create, use the same symbol for the different angles, you will have to edit those symbols individually and just kind of recreate the same thing that I did here on these other symbols, all right? But as you can see, working with these is super easy. All you need to do is click on the symbol that you want to edit. let's turn this, let's give him a turtleneck. So we're gonna go in here, we're gonna double click on the neck region. And we're gonna use the same techniques. Actually, I'm gonna go back and sample these colors just to make sure I have the right colors. All right, now I'm gonna go back into the neck, create a new symbol, and I am going to draw this turtleneck. I'm going to fill it in. It always helps to do a little bit of optimization. You can use the smooth feature on the tools, or you can go to modify, shape, optimize. And the reason we do this, I'm going to go back a step, is that because if you notice with the subselection tool, when you draw shapes and stuff, notice how many vector points were used to create that shape. The more vector points you have on an piece of artwork, the more complex it is. The more complex it is, the more processing power it takes. So you always want to keep your artwork as optimized as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything, modify, shape, optimize. Here I can play around with the different strengths, and you can get a preview of how that's going to affect your shape, because basically what that's going to do is it's going to try to get rid of the interpolated points, and sometimes that's enough to break the image, you know, to kind of mess it up. But so you don't want to go too much on that, but you do want to do it a little bit. See how by 21 it's smoothing that up. It doesn't look too bad, but it kind of straightened that out a little bit. Let's do it a little bit more. 59, 78, 100. 100 optimization. It doesn't look too crazy, but it doesn't look like the original shape anymore, and that's fine. Sometimes we want that. I'm gonna click OK. I'm gonna keep that. There was a 52% reduction, it tells me. Let's take a look at the points. Notice how there's very little points used to create this shape at this point. I can do a little bit of more if I want to like fix that to have it more curves, like here. So you can kind of tweak that. But the least amount of points you use to create a piece of artwork, the better the better performance you're going to get out of your character. So now I'm going to use my little highlights to make these little wrinkles. The design style behind Kevin, if you want to keep the artwork style consistent, one of the rules for Kevin's artwork is that the outlines do not touch the sides. So you can create outlines in the center of the artwork, but don't have it touch the out. And if you're going to put outlines on the artwork itself, do it on the edges, but don't have them touching the inner parts. That's just a creative choice. It's a design thing. You don't have to follow it. But if you want to keep the artwork more consistent to the original design style, that's pretty much one of the rules behind the K1 art style. So we have something that looks like this. And of course, when he moves, he's going to move like this. All right. So in a nutshell, you know, this is how you edit the templates. This is how you edit the K1 template. This is how you edit any other template. The easiest thing to just keep in mind is you just have to double click the symbol or the sprite, go inside of edit and place mode, edit it any way you want, and then get out of it and go on to the next sprite. The important thing to keep in mind is that when you do this, you don't want to modify anything. So if I go in here, and I can't just do it on my main template, okay? So being here, I got this ear, let's say I want to do a new symbol here. I start drawing the new ear. It's like a little spiky ear, and I do whatever artwork I want. Well, that's nothing. I'm editing air, okay? But if I double click that ear and then I start editing it, I'm gonna create a new layer. So now I'm really editing it, okay? So I'm editing that K1348 symbol. If I go out, that change has been applied everywhere else that one symbol shows up. So you can see it there. That's not the same ear. That's not the same one. But you can see it anywhere else where that same ear shows up. Right there. I believe it's in there too. So let's Control Z back. Okay, so the principle behind editing and making your own modifications, I mean, that pretty much should cover that. All you have to do is double click the sprite that you want to edit or the symbol that you want to edit it. You know, you can edit the raw artwork, or you can create a new layer on top of it and then edit that. So once I've created this shirt, I can just follow the same principles, you know. I'll go in here. Let me sample the colors so I can have those colors in here. I'll do the back. And in this case, I'm not going to do that duplication thing. I'm just going to go and damage the original artwork. Okay, I don't recommend you doing this, but I want to show you because it's something that you can do. So I'm just going to flat out just modify what's already there. All right. I'm even going to leave that shadow alone. I'm not even going to mess with that. So you can see that now I have the back of that shirt. If I want, I can cheat a little bit. I can take this thing from this neck, that one section there, copy it, go back out here, go to that back neck. I'll create a new layer for this one. Paste in place. I can do that. And maybe change the wrinkles around a little bit if you don't want it to be exactly the same. But, you know, that saves me a little bit of work. So now I have that. And basically, you just keep doing that, you know. Keep doing that across the different angles. The bottom 3 angles here, you'll never have to mess with, okay? The only time you mess with those is in the event where you have a non-symmetrical character. So in this case, I have Kevin who has I have this character who has the tattoo on his left arm. At that point, I do have to mess around with this left arm. I have to put that tattoo on the left side. Well, actually, no, because the left hand is facing that way, so I won't see that tattoo from this angle. But if it was on this side of the arm, yeah, I would have to mess with it here. If he's a pirate and he has a peg leg on one leg, you might have to do it at that point. But normally, you don't have to mess with any of these angles. Just, you'll never have to touch them. What else can we talk about as far as Kevin's or K1's template? Let's take a look at some of the questions. So what is a G2 character? A G2 character is basically, it's basically, in essence, it's a 3D character, all right? But it's not displaying the 3D mesh, the actual geometry. Instead, it has two-dimensional sprites that are mapped to the different bones, and depending on the angle that the bone is showing, it's going to display those sprites. So in essence, you end up with a 3D character that is composed of 2D sprites. It's a very advanced character, and when you rig them up this way, you're basically rigging up a 3D character and assigning 2D sprites to the different bones. These G2 characters you can animate by puppeteering. You can animate by manipulating manually. And you can also animate using motion capture data because it is a 3D skeleton in there, so it'll move with your 3D motion capture data. The G2 characters, they work inside of CrazyTalk Animator, and they're fully rigged. They're fully rigged for for pretty much all the 10 primary angles that you can think of. Unlike Flash and Toon Boom and other things like Moho, they're not limited to that one-dimensional plane. Okay, you can rig up a character in some of these software, assign bones to them, but they're always just going to move in that one plane, and you have to do one for every side. A G2 character is fully rigged so that you can rotate the character and move him and contort him in different areas, and they'll have a sprite for every possible angle that you can kind of think of as he moves. So that is the biggest key benefit to using the G2 character. The full thing is rigged. It's not just one angle. You can work with just one angles at a time too, by the way, if that's all you need. Let's see, more questions. What's the differences between working with the templates versus working from scratch? Basically, when you work from a template, everything is pre-rigged for you. As you can see here, this template has the pivot points already predefined for them. It already has the sprites pre-assembled, pre-built, pre-configured with the appropriate instance names that CrazyTalk is going to use to create that character for you. And it's kind of locked in. So Kevin, for example, has a specific design type from a structural standpoint. His shoulders are a little bit outside of his hip region. He has very thin hips. He has short legs that are about the same size as his upper body. A lot of characters have longer legs. Kevin has slightly broad shoulders. He has long arms. He has long upper arms. His arms hang down to almost like half the size wherever the thighs are. That's something specific to K1. So likewise, if I'm designing a character, let's see here. Here I have a K1 female character that I've been working on off and on. And I call it a K1 female because it's going to be a female character, but it's built on the K1 base model. And it is going to give this character a unique look to her because it's not going to be the traditional female. In general, you want females to have bigger hips. You want females to have longer legs maybe for that sexiness aspect. But K1 doesn't have it. K1 has short legs, slightly broader shoulders. So building a female out of the K1 base model, it's going to yield characters that are a little bit more unique. You know, they're a little bit more different, not the traditional female. So this might come off as more of a tomboyish type female character. Notice that she has breast, but she has a long torso. She has very small hips. She doesn't have childbearing hips at all. So you'll need to kind of play around with that. And the thing is, because a template is pretty much pre-rigged, you're kind of locked into that body type. That's why pretty much every single Lusion character that you get from the marketplace looks exactly the same, because they're all built on this one ugly dummy template. That's what they call it, the dummy template. If you ask me, it's a little bit of an appropriate name for it, because you know, it's like a dummy character. You know, I know they meant more like a base character, but you know, you kind of got to be a dummy to work with this thing. And Lusion characters, the pre-built characters that you get from the marketplace, they stand out. It's like, oh, that's a really, you know, that's a generic character that came from the Lusion. That's what everybody's using, because they're all built on this one body type, and they're all locked in there. And this is the template that was released with CrazyTalk, so that you can go in there, edit it, make your own characters for it. There's nothing wrong with it, you know, using it. It's a great starting point for some animations. There's a lot of body parts for these type of characters, so there's a lot of configuration options, but it's a very ugly design. It's very generic. It's very flat. It doesn't have a lot of artistic quality to it. So, you know, you have females. Like in this one, I was making like a female elf character based on this template, and they're just gonna have the same general design. When you look at the characters that people are making, the animations that most people that use CrazyTalk are making, you're gonna see a general cohesiveness of the characters. Most of those characters are going to look the same, because they're all built off of this one template. And of course, working off of a template, like I said, you're locked into the body proportions, the lines, the way that the body size ratios are built. So you're kind of locked in there. That's one of the things about a template that's kind of a drawback in a way. A benefit of it is, of course, that you could just double click the sprite that you want, edit it, and you'll create a new element that you can apply to those characters that are built on that template, and they'll line up perfectly fine. So K1, compared to the dummy template, it's a different body type, body shape, and he'll stand out as something that didn't necessarily come from the Lusion store right away, because he doesn't fall under the same design principles. He doesn't have the same body type. He doesn't have the same line work styles. It's it's more original in a way. Now, of course, as time goes on, more people are going to develop their own modifications for Kevin, so it might be a little bit more obvious at that point as to what template it was built with. But because it's not that common, and because the artwork itself lends itself to a more traditional Disney-like DreamWorks style or anime-ish type of design style, they don't necessarily have that smell of, oh, generically created characters. You know, they have personality to them. Even if all you're doing is changing the eyes or the hair, it's enough to give yourself a character with like a very unique sense of personality. So and of course, working from scratch, that's when you pretty much have to have that in place. You can work from scratch. You can create your own templates. I mean, you just have to know, like, educate yourself in a very extreme way, really. You have to familiarize yourself with the naming conventions, what each body part has to be named, how it has to be configured. I can go in here and just draw an upper arm from scratch. You know, I'll turn it into a symbol, and then I'll have to configure it with the appropriate naming convention. Then I have to add another symbol that has also been named as a pivot point, placed where I want that arm to pivot. It's a hassle to keep all those things in mind. You can use Puppet Producer, which takes away all the guessing work. By just, okay, I click this, go to Puppet Producer, click on it, automatically configures everything I need for it, creates the naming conventions, adds the pivot points. It's easy to work with. And working from scratch, you're not locked into a template. You can make something with a huge upper body. You can make something with a huge lower body, small head, big head, short, tall. You're not limited by the body proportions. You can literally create almost any type of character body configuration that you want if you do it from scratch. That's when you're going to have the most options. Of course, once you've built something from scratch, you basically have created your own template. And going forward, if you ever need something that uses that same body type, or if you just need a new type of a new asset, like a new hairstyle, a new set of eyes, a new set of eyebrows, different hands, that's when you go ahead and edit that template. So ideally, if you want completely original characters with the body types exactly the way that you want them, the body proportions, that's when you want to do your characters from scratch, either by knowing where all these instances are. You know, you can read the white paper. It comes with some kind of Excel spreadsheets with the names of the different items. So you can do it all by hand without the need for Puppet Producer. But you can also do it with Puppet Producer, and you'll save yourself a good 100 hours worth of work. By just clicking on the item you want, it'll configure it for you. Let's see. Do I need Puppet Producer to work with a template? No, you don't. Like I said, the template is already pre-configured. Everything has already been set up for you. All you have to do is edit the individual sprites to create your modifications. You can use Puppet Producers. I mean, there might be a time where, for example, let's go into the mouth sprite for this character. All right, so I have 30 main sprites. Now the Kevin template has a couple more sprites in here. These are all kind of just supplemental. They're not real sprites. They're not going to get exported for you, but I placed those in there just so you can get an idea that you can create additional sprites for different expressions if you want. Those last 3 sprites, you could just delete them. They're not really part of the main template. That's just if you want to create additional sprites for your character. Let's see, remove frames. I'll just delete those. But you know, actually, let's see here. Let's say I want to edit. I want to modify this mouth sprite, right? But it's 30 of them. I don't necessarily want to be able to go in here. I mean, you can, which is kind of, you know, what you're supposed to do. And let's see here. Something simple. So I've given him some kind of like a goatee or something, right? I'll go outside. I'll go to the next sprite. I'll double click it. I edit that. I go outside again. Double click. Edit that. Now I could just keep doing that, okay, 30 times. And that's ideally you kind of want to do that because that's not destroying anything, all right? So if I go out, notice my properties panel. The first frame, this symbol has been configured to be the normal. second sprite, if I click on it, it's the droop lower lip. It's been configured for that. It's already set up. It's already been set up as a sprite, as a symbol, and it has the appropriate instance name. So, you know, that one, raise lip edges, and it's already set up. So ideally, that's how you want to work. You want to find the sprite that you want. Don't mess it up. Don't change the name. Just edit it. And you just kind of ideally want to work with it that way. But, you know, as you become more experienced, some of these tasks become more monotonous and time consuming for you. Kind of like, I don't want to have to do this 30 times. I want to save time, you know? So as you become experienced, you're going to be like experiencing that, you know, that sense of, this is taking too long. So as a more experienced user would do, you would probably want to save yourself time by editing everything more like at the same time. But in order to do that, we would have to destroy all of these sprites, and that's when we get into trouble. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select edit multiple frames, this option here. I'm going to select this entire range. I'm going to select all of these symbols. I'm going to press Control B to break them apart. All right, so now I have destroyed this. CrazyTalk has no idea what the hell is going on inside of this. If I bring it into CrazyTalk right now, he's going to have an invisible mouth. He's not going to have a mouth at all, because when I go in here, all it is a shape. It's not even a symbol, and it definitely doesn't have the appropriate instance name. But as a professional, or as somebody who wants to save myself a little bit of time, I can go on the top layer and I can draw my little thing here. Optimize it, convert it into a group. Just optimize it a little bit. So I have that, which I can now see across all the other angles. And let's see, I'm going to replicate this. I'm going to break it apart, and I'm going to replicate it multiple times. F6. So I have that like that. And I just do some minor tweaks here. Like in this one, I'll go in here. And just edit as needed. But I'm already saving myself a little bit of time. And I just keep editing whenever I need to. So, I mean, using this technique, I'm able to edit a lot more frames a lot faster. But again, at this point, I have broken my character's mouth, so I'll have to fix it again. I'm not gonna mess with it too much. So now I have all of these updates. So I'll need to reconvert that back into a workable mouth. I'm gonna cut and then paste in place. We want to bring everything down to its own, to a flat layer. face. All I'm doing is cutting them from the top layer and pasting them in the lower layer in the exact place where they were, just to bring everything down. So just pretend at this point that we took our time and edited everything. There we go. Let's see here. All right, so we have some additional questions while doing this. ¿Cuál es la diferencia entre what is the difference between the K1 template and the real Lusion template? I think I covered that one already. The K1 template is using a different design style. It's very thin. It's using outlines. From a technical standpoint, there's really no difference. It has the same sprites, but from a construction standpoint, then you have the different body proportions, and of course the design style. One of the things that they use is these ugly outlines. If you see here, these thick outlines. All right, I don't use outlines. I use brush strokes for my outlines. But they do this so that you can use the ability to make them bigger and smaller. Is the K1 template another puppet producer? No. And that's kind of what we're doing, what I'm explaining at this point. The template is just a template. Puppet producer has already been used. It's already been used on the template to create the template in the first place. So you don't need Puppet Producer to work with the K1 template. It's already been configured. All you use the template for is to go in there, edit the sprites, and you don't need Puppet Producer. The only time you're gonna need Puppet Producer with the template is when you're doing stuff like this, where you are forcing yourself to literally, I mean, when you want to do stuff like this to increase the, your time efficiency, where you're pretty much forced to destroy the elements in the template. So what I did here is I literally destroyed my mouth sprites. It's 30 of them, and I don't know what the names of these mouth sprites are. There's a whole spreadsheet with these things, and I can look at them and manually put them in there. But we're smarter than that. We don't want to go through all that crap. So Puppet Producer would come in handy when you're doing stuff like this. All right, so let's pretend to save some time. Let's pretend that I went ahead and flattened everything out. So I'm just gonna delete this for now. So all of these front sprites have that little beard already modified, but I still have the situation where these mouths are no longer configurable. They're just shapes. So this is the only time really that Puppet Producer may come in handy, because I can go in here into the mouth section, and to rebuild this, I could just click on the automatic configuration button, and it's gonna go through all the frames for me. It's gonna convert them all into symbols, and it's gonna give them the proper instance names, and it allows us to kind of go back to where we were when we started with the configurations in place. It'll take a few seconds. It doesn't normally take this long, but because I'm streaming, I'm using a lot more memory. It should be done pretty soon. Let's close this to improve our memory usage. All right, so it finished. So if we go back now, you can see that this has been turned back into a symbol. It's set up to be the normal. This is our second symbol. It's set up to be the droop lower lip. Here we have frame number 10. If we click on it in the properties panel, it's the raised chin. So it's been reconfigured. So you can use Puppet Producer in conjunction with the templates if you are going to be breaking the template. It's what's going to allow you to fix it, you know, or bring it back. Or if you know what the symbol name is going to be, you can manually fix that symbol name. So you don't need Puppet Producer to work with the templates. I have had several people who have bought the templates and they're like, I'm working with the template and Puppet Producer, and then I usually have to respond, well, you don't have to, you know, you have the template. I already did the work for you. It's already configured. All you have to do is double click on the thing that you want to edit, perform your changes, double click, you know, perform your modification the way that you want. And just leave it alone. That's it. Everything's already configured. As long as you don't destroy the technical stuff, you know, don't remove the instance names, don't get rid of, don't break apart the symbols. All you have to do is double click the symbol, edit it, and you're done. You don't need to use Puppet Producer. If you're going to be working from scratch, that's when you need Puppet Producer. Adi says, only Flash or Animate? I think that's a question. Are you asking, does this work only in Flash? Flash and Animate is the same thing, guys. It's the same thing. The only difference is the name. Puppet Producer, the templates, I believe these templates will work with any version of Flash CS6 or above. Before then, you might have issues with it. You might still be able to convert them, but you'll have a little bit more difficulty. There's a feature in this template that also differs from the features in the Lusion template. And for example, if I go to the template, you can see we have some tagged swatches. So if all you want is to change your character's skin tone, for example, I can bring that in. I can edit this. Let me see if I can show you this better. Actually, I think this will work better in the color panel or the swatches panel. This is something that the Lusion templates do not have. And it's a little bit of on the experimental side, okay? So, you know, I don't have a tag swatch for every element. I double click on that. I'll change the color a bit. Click OK. I'll do it a little bit more so you can see it. So notice what happened. I changed that one color, and pretty much everywhere where that color exists, it has been updated. I changed this one, and everywhere where that color has been used, can't find it. Let's see here. Let's make it smaller. Let's edit some more. Let's try this red one, which is at, let's see, I think that's for the mouth. Let's try this. Let's try this one. This is not something that I normally use myself. So whenever there's tagged swatches, you can go in there and just change them that way. And wherever that color shows up, it'll be updated. Now, I don't necessarily recommend it too much, but it is one of the features that the template has. So you can modify the tagged swatches, and it'll save yourself some coloring time. Let me try to go back a bit. Do you have a video on YouTube walking through the K1 template? This is that video. We're walking through the K1 template right now. This is the video. After the stream, you can go back and you can just replay some of the stuff that I've gone through. But the idea behind today's stream is that this is that video to walk everybody through the K1 template, show you all the features, show you how to edit it. And if anybody has specific questions about the template, I can answer those questions in real time. Let's see here. I'm gonna go back a lot more. I'm done with the demonstration of this part. I don't necessarily need this this shirt. Let's take a look at some of the more extreme modifications of the K1 template. Hey, no problem, Chase. I'm glad I'm able to do this, man. If I can wait for the computer to respond. So how long have we been streaming? This was supposed to be maybe 30 minutes to an hour. I don't want to make it too long. We'll probably do another 20 minutes. I don't want to make this video too long because I want it to be easy to digest, easy to kind of, you know, cover everything as much as possible, but I don't want to turn it into a multiple-hour event. We'll do another 20 minutes because I still have a few more things that I want to change. Can I change the body weight, make him fat, for instance? To a certain extent, you can't. Basically, as I explained just a few minutes ago, the templates are locked in. Okay, so that's one of the things, like with the Lusion dummy template, the K1, the B1 template, the M1, everything that is a template is pretty much already locked into the body proportion. So you can make the characters a little bit more muscular, but the framework, that skeletal structure, is still going to be thin. So even though the sprites might be thicker, you have a certain amount of wiggle room. You can give them muscles. You can make. You can give them like a pudgy. Oh no problem, man. You could just rewind this and you know, start it up. That's why I don't want to make this stream that long. Just rewind it, and you'll kind of see that. But the sprites, I mean, you can give them a pot belly, but you're locked in to the to the sizes where the joints intersect. Excuse me. Let's see if we can improve the this stuff here. Okay, I think that brings us back to a state before I made those color changes. So now, so let's say we want to make a fat Kevin. All right, we're gonna save as let's see, desktop. So if we want to make a fat K1, we have a little bit of wiggle room. You're not gonna be able to. No, you cannot use the template with GIMP. Basically, you know, CrazyTalk templates are built in Flash. There's no way around it. You can build your own templates with GIMP or with Photoshop, but ultimately you have to import those assets into Flash and then rig them, and then there'll be a template. So anytime you're dealing with a G2 template, it's a Flash thing, Flash Animate. You can edit some of this stuff. If you know how to convert back and forth between the programs, you can go in and out of the programs and do things like that. For example, if you're using Photoshop, you can draw stuff in Photoshop and bring it into Flash and convert that into a vector shape, and, you know, continue to work that way. Gary Pye's character, I think her name was Wendy. I built that character for him. He designed it, and I basically put it together for him, but he built all his assets in Photoshop, and I basically brought those into Flash, vectorized them, and rigged it up for him. And she's a fully articulate G2 character in vector format, but he did it in Photoshop. Let's see here. Let's see, questions. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the more like extreme changes. So we have clothed. So this is a modification of the K1 template, and this is what, you know, what we refer to as Kevin. So he's a character now. He's not just a dummy template. He's not just a base character. We have the K1. which contains all the elements that you need to build a character. You can change the eyes, you can change the eyebrows, you can change the mouth, whatever. Build your own characters with them or create new assets for it. But this is where he stays as the K1. Once we make something new out of it, then it becomes whatever you named them. So this is Kevin. And Kevin, all he is the clothed version of K1. He has a shirt, he has pants. In a different flash file, I have his shoes. But this is what, you know, when I usually talk about Kevin, I usually talk about this character. When I usually talk about K1 is pretty much just the template itself or any character that's built out of K1. K1 is the body proportions. You know, the long torso, the short legs. We have the K1 female, which has, you know, she's locked into those Kevin, you know, those K1 body proportions. So she has broad shoulders, which is not a very usual thing for females to have. She's going to have small hips, which is not something that most females would have. In general, cartoon female characters should have wider hips and smaller shoulders. But the K1 females, they're locked into that body proportion, that template. So they're going to normally look like this. We have, you know, I am building another character, the L1 character, which is going to be Lainey, and she has different body proportions where the hip is bigger than the thigh, than the shoulders. So she is going to lend herself more to female characters because of the body proportions. And of course, you'll be able to make male characters again with the same template, but those male characters are going to have wider hips and stuff, so they might lend themselves to like fatter characters and stuff. Let's see. So we have for example, the B1 template, or the what's known as the Billy 2.0 template. I think I have it here. This is the Billy template. Yeah, all the sprites are there. He's a more cartoonish character, right? And he has different body proportions. He is one of the characters that's a male character that has wider hips than the shoulders, but he still looks masculine, but he's a cartoon character. He's more cartoony. He has a huge head. And most of the characters that are built on Billy, on the B1 template, you can tell they have the Billy proportions. You know, here's Bubbles. You know, Bubbles is kind of it's kind of like the creature of the Black Lagoon, and of course, this is Bubbles based off of the B1 template, the Billy 2.0 template. And because it's locked into those body proportions. You're locked into the big head, the big eyes, the wide hips, the small shoulders, the tiny upper arms. Those are things that are very much locked into the template. The same way that the Lusion characters, they're pretty much skinny stick figure type characters with huge outlines and very limited, like, you know, style and stuff. But you can tell which characters are built off of the dummy template. You can probably tell which characters are built off of the Billy template. So like in this case, we have Bubbles for Billy. Now here I have the K1 Bubbles, okay? It's the same character, creature from the Black Lagoon, but it's starting to adopt the same design styles for Kevin in terms of artwork, but also the K1 template. So here is, this is the K1 built off of the Bubble, built on the Billy template, and this is Bubbles built off of K1. So in terms of design style and colors, the colors are a lot more muted, but you can clearly see the body proportions at play. Smaller head, thinner body, long upper torso, hips are smaller than the shoulders are broader. So this is going to be Bubbles built off of the K1 template. Here we have a Cobra Kai design mod. You know, if you're familiar with Karate Kid, the bad guys from Karate Kid, they wore these very stylized Halloween costumes with the skeletons and stuff. So that's you know, like the tennis shoes and stuff. So that's using the same body proportions as K1. So this is K1. You're locked into those body proportions, and there's the K1 Bubbles. So he's a creature from the Black Lagoon. Looks significantly different than Bubbles for Billy. So when you start building, you know, your any characters that you use that you build off of a template are going to have the same body proportions and same body configurations as the template has, because you're limited at that point. You can try modifying, you know, changing the pivots and stuff around once you get a little bit more advanced, but you have to do it for every angle, and it's a pain in the butt. So do that at your own discretion, basically. Is the Cobra Kai outfit available for K1? I don't have the template available, the modifiable template. I can make it available if you want. I think I have it in my computer somewhere. I do have the body itself in the catalog over at toontitan.com. You can download the body with the outfit and drop it into any of your characters. I also have like some kind of the M1. I have this other template that I'm getting ready to release called the M1, and the character's name is Mojo, and he's kind of like a space cadet. But I released the body already. I haven't released the full template because I'm still working on the face. I'm not happy with the eyes, so I want to tweak those a little bit more. But the M1 body is available already, and so is the Cobra Kai mod. But it's not modifiable as a source file yet. I don't think I released it because I want to finish doing some of the like the hood and stuff like that. But I did want it to release at least the body for, you know, people who wanted to use it for Halloween and stuff. It is at toontitan.com. I think it's like a couple bucks. But the body is fully functional. It's been configured for the render styles and all that good stuff. Which is the important part. You know, once it's there, there's no need to modify the source for it, because that's the end result. You know, that's one of the reasons like I don't release like a lot of the modified versions, because, you know, you create those yourself using the base model. Let's see here. So this is Bubbles. It was built off of the Billy 2.0 template. Yeah, he has bigger head, big eyes, big mouth. Here's K1 Bubbles. Significant difference. And that's, you know, it shows how a character that you build off of a template is locked in to the body proportions of the template itself. And it's a good thing too. So, for example, I can take the K1 mod. So you can take the K1 mod. You can create any mods you want, and those modifications that you built, if all you're doing is t-shirts, if you're building them off of the K1 template, those t-shirts are going to be compatible with any model or any character that was built off of the K1 template. They're going to align perfectly. The joints and everything, it's going to fit perfectly. So yeah. Orlando says, can you create the characters I want, and what's the charge? The K1 template is a little bit expensive. All right, I released it with the idea that there's not a lot of people who really want to work with it. It's a very limited appeal, so it pretty much costs the same as buying Puppet Producer. So it's about $75. If you want to work with this template, like I said, I mean, this tutorial, I mean, any of the templates that are available, regardless of where you get them, they work the same way. If you want to work with the K1 template, you know, it does cost $75. download it. It costs pretty much the same as Puppet Producer, but Puppet Producer lets you create stuff from scratch. This one already has the character built for you, and sometimes all you just need is a new set of eyes, a new set of eyebrows, a new hairstyle, or sometimes you might want to create an entirely new creature like you see here. You know, this is Bubbles for K1. And what's the charge? Can you create the characters that I want? Okay, another thing that goes with that question is that, you know, you're gonna own this template, and it's a royalty-free usage, man. Use it for your own usage or use it to make money off of it. You can make your money back easily because these characters do not exist in the Real Lusion marketplace. So if you're somebody who's just looking for an opportunity to make your own money and stuff off of this type of stuff, yeah, you can get the K1 template, create your own creatures, modifications, you know, and go ahead and release them on the Real Lusion marketplace or build your own website like I did and sell them, make your money back, you know. I highly encourage you to take my templates, build your own characters with them, and sell them, make your money back. Or, you know, do something simple because there's a lot of need for this type of stuff, man. If all you want to do is take this template and just build clothing, build shoes, build shirts, build pants, and extract them, and just have your own clothing line for K1 or for any of the other templates. Anybody else that owns these characters, the template, I mean, I think the Kevin itself, or the base model, I think it's like $10, so it's very affordable. But anybody who owns that character can take your clothing and enhance that character, you know, drag and drop it, boom, now they have a new shirt, now they have new pants, and you can make money off of that stuff, man. So it's a pretty good investment, but I mean, obviously there's not a lot of people that appeals to. Normally editing the direct source file applies to somebody who's doing something for themselves, and they just literally want to modify stuff in a way that you just can't do it by switching body parts around. You want to add a tattoo, you want a new clothing, you want to put a logo in there, you just gotta have to get into the source file. So that's why that template is there available. But yeah, man, my template, anything you create from it, you have full license to do whatever you want with it. Obviously, don't go in there and just change the skin color and try to pass it off as a new character. It's not gonna work. You know, it's still gonna be Kevin. But you know, create your own characters, man. Create your own new eye sprites, create your own things, and that's royalty free. You built it off of my template, but it's your creation. You modified that, you built it, it's yours. Sell it, make money off of it. Adi says, ¿Cómo se convierten las líneas en shapes? Okay. He's basically asking, how do you convert lines into shapes? The easiest way, not part of this tutorial, but I'll show you anyways. You take an outline, you draw your outline, and of course you can adjust your outline to whatever thickness you want. And then you select it, you go to modify, shape, convert lines to fills. Give it about a second. And now this outline is still there, but it's no longer like a flash outline. It's a shape. So you can, you know, do all sorts of like funky little things to it. You can even select it and apply the smoothing tool a couple times to make it look like you drew it by hand using a pressure sensitive graphics tablet. So that's how you convert a line into a shape. In many cases, that's actually preferred to actually using outlines. I mean, you're just leaving yourself open for all sorts of bugs inside of CrazyTalk. Yeah, no problem, man. Any kind of questions, even if they're not related, you know, related to the tutorial, I'll go ahead and answer them if they're easy enough to explain. So here, I mean, you can see that if I double click on this hand, you can see that I started working on the first hand, and it's the same techniques that we used in the first part of the video. I'm basically going in there. I drew over that symbol. Let's see here. Did I delete the original? No, I didn't. So here's the original hand, and what I did is I created a new layer, and on top of that layer I just drew the new hand. And of course you can either delete the bottom layers when you're done, or you right click, convert to guide, and they'll be prevented from exporting as part of your template. So excuse me, you end up with the new artwork. And I just got to go in here frame by frame, add the new hand using the bottom hand as the guide for the new hand. I think on the front angle I completed all of them. I'm not sure if I remember. No, I haven't yet. So it's something else I have to do. There's still a lot of work to be done in this character. Let's see here, the mouth. So in this case we have pretty much all of the mouths. But you know, you do them by editing the different sprites. You double click the sprite you want to edit, and you edit it, and then you get out. So here's an eyebrow. It's right there. There's the original eyebrow. And I just use that as a guide for the new eyebrow on a separate layer. And when I'm done, you know, just reconfigure that. And of course, ideally, you just want to edit directly inside that eyebrow. But that's how you do it. You use that as a guide. What else can we cover that we haven't covered yet? Let's see here. Can I sell my creations or modifications or mods? Yes, I kind of had just explained that. Yeah, anything you create with this template, go ahead and sell it. It's yours. You know, it's your artwork. You're only using my stuff as a guide, you know, as a template, as a starting point. I highly encourage it, because the more stuff is available on the market that's compatible with this template, the more options people are going to have. You know, you mix and match body parts, and just by doing that alone, it's enough to create new characters. You don't necessarily have to draw from scratch. So yeah, I highly encourage it. Go ahead and make your own creations, make your own characters, make your own hair packs, eye packs, you know, shirt packs, pants, shoes. Make them, build them off of this template, sell them. You know, you can create your own little niche for this type of stuff off of this template. It's already configured for you. Okay, so a few tips. Avoid using outlines whenever you're drawing. That applies to anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the templates. There's all sorts of bugs in CrazyTalk that are associated with the use of outlines, and they don't look nice. You know, they're just thick, single, solid. They don't have that nice varied outline weight. And when you group them inside of CrazyTalk, those outlines are considered the same outline. So you can't have like monochromatic outlines, like have your outlines be one color on one body type, have a different color on the other ones, because you're locked into that one thing. So I just recommend using brush strokes and fills to create your character's outlines, instead of using like the actual vector outlines. I would avoid those like the plague. There's more bugs than anything. There's one more thing that I want to cover in terms of editing the sprites, because the eyes are the most difficult ones. So I'm going to touch on the eyes in a little bit. What I do want to cover is, non-destructive shadows. You can get the most out of some of these, your design for your templates and stuff, using a technique that I called non-destructive shadows or global shading. This is something that Lusion didn't necessarily plan for, because when they created the vector styles feature, or the render styles, and you have the vector grouping, they have specific body parts, and you don't necessarily want to lock yourself in to wasting one of your vector groups just because you have a cell shade. And of course, once you edit the cell shading inside of CrazyTalk, just two colors you have to worry about, and their coloring system is so crazy that it's very unpredictable. You're not going to find the proper, you know, shade for your outlines. It's just more trouble than it's worth. So this is a little technique that I came up with. I call it global shading. So here I'm going to add some shading to this shirt. And basically, I'm going to create a new layer here. On top of this thing, I'm just going to draw using the black color. I'm just going to draw like a basic shade. This is where my shade is. Obviously, it's very dark. I'm going to optimize it a little bit. So this is going to represent my shadow on my shirt. So what I do here is I make this transparent. Maybe a 10%, anywhere between 10 and 20 should be fine. So we have that. We created a shadow by blending the two colors together. Now when you go inside of CrazyTalk and apply your vector colors, don't mess with the shade. Leave that alone. Don't assign it to anything. That's going to stay as an overlay. That way, you see how you create this nice little cell shade here? That way, when in CrazyTalk you use your vector feature, your render styles feature to change the color of this shirt, this is going to stay the same. It's going to be overlaid, but I go in here and I change the color of this shirt to something more bluish. Oops, maybe I should paint it. Unlock it. There we go. So now I have a blue shirt, but the shade itself, because it's a color blend, it has that overlay. You still end up with an appropriate shadow on top of your base color. You can do that with highlights. So let's see here. With highlights, I usually use the color like a very light gray, not necessarily a pure white. And the same thing, you know, make that transparent. Maybe a little lighter than 10% for the highlights. It helps if you do it on a separate layer, by the way. So we have a little bit of a highlight there. And again, so that's one way to create global shading and global highlighting. It's a really nice technique that you can employ so that you're not wasting any of your vector style slots on these extra colors, and your shading stays consistent regardless of what your color changes are. I'm going to change this back to this maroonish color. See how the highlights and the shadows kind of stay the same. So that's as far as a tip is concerned, that's one of the techniques that I definitely recommend using. It'll help you maximize the use of your vector style groups. You know, you can use those for other things, not necessarily waste them on shading. And it'll give you more versatility because I can have highlights over here, shadows all over the place, and the base colors are always going to be different. But regardless of what I change my base colors to, the highlight and shadow levels, they're always going to match, and they're going to be consistent across all the different body parts. Fixing accidentally deleted pivots or broken sprites. Yeah, that's rewind it to the point. Rewind this video to the point where I was talking about editing the mouth sprites. You can you basically just have to if you accidentally deleted a pivot, you can let's say I have that one, accidentally deleted it, so now that character is broken, so it doesn't know what to do with that arm. If it's something as simple as that, you can always duplicate it, Control D, any of the other pivots, put the pivot back in place, you know, just trying to guesstimate where it was, and rename it. So right here you can see the naming convention is right arm 0, so we could just kind of left arm 0. So we kind of fixed that already. The other thing you can do is you can use Puppet Producer if you have it. So go to Window, Extensions, Puppet Producer. Oh, here it is. So I'm editing the front. So I click on my left arm, upper arm. If I just click on that, let's see here. So it kind of fixed it. It added that pivot point in there. And then also it replaced my artwork because I told it to replace it. But it replaced that pivot point, placed it exactly where it needs to be. That's one of the few times where, you know, you need Puppet Producer to work. If you accidentally deleted a pivot point and you don't know where it goes, or you just want a quick way to rename it and stuff, you can do that. But you don't need it. You can do it by hand. So if you're doing it by hand, you just take your pivot and you know, manually rename it. What else? All right, so let's start touching base on the eyes, because the eyes are the most difficult ones. K1 template doesn't have joint masks. No, the templates don't have joint masks. Joint masks show up inside of CrazyTalk. This is in Flash, you're basically focusing on the character rigging itself. Once you bring your character into CrazyTalk, that's when you add your joint masks to it. And there's a button on the upper right hand corner that you click on, and it'll automatically put the joint masks in there for you, and then you just have to adjust them. So you add the joint masks in CrazyTalk after you import your template. So okay, so for this, let's see what else can we the eyes, as you can see here in the bubbles template, I've done some significant changes to the eye sprites. Huge irises, big old yellow irises, and they look like that. See if I can zoom in so you guys can get a better view. So the eyes have like 3 levels of nesting, which is what makes them a little bit more difficult to work with. So here we're gonna, for the eyes, we're gonna double click on the eye. What's this here? We don't need that. And we're going to make sure it's unlocked. So one of the first things that we can change of the eye is the pupil. The pupil is easy because he's using pretty much the same pupil on everything. So editing the pupil is going to be easy. We double click on it again. Oh yeah, let me demonstrate the multiple nesting areas of the eye. So here we're on the stage, scene 1. We'll double click on this eye. So now in the next level, you'll see K1_383 right here on the upper right hand corner, and you'll see on the timeline that it has the 13 different eye sprites across 13 different frames. So we'll find the sprite that we want to edit first. We'll go to the first one, and that's another symbol. This is the normal 1 symbol. Again, don't mess with this thing. Don't mess with the instance name. That's gonna break your stuff. But we're gonna double click on it one more time. Double click, click. And in here, you're gonna find 3 different layers. The top 2 layers are your eye mask, which is the region where the pupil is going to be displayed. And the next level is gonna be the pupil itself. And the bottom is the area of the eye. Now these are all 3 different symbols. So let's see, let me hide all these and show you one at a time. So the top is your mask, and it looks like that. That's the white part of the eye that's gonna where the pupil is gonna go inside. If it goes outside of that area, it's not gonna be displayed, so it'll mask out the pupil. The second layer contains your pupil. And the third layer is your bottommost layer is the actual image of the eye region. And okay, so I would start with the pupil, and I mean they're all independent symbols, so we're gonna have to double click on it again. Double click. So now notice all the different levels of nesting. If we look at the upper left hand corner, scene 1. Then we have the symbol K1 383, K1 384, K1 386. And here is where we can finally edit this sprite. So if I go in here and edit this, since that's the same symbol for that pupil, you can see that the change is taking place on the other, wherever this pupil shows up, that's going to be edited. So let's say I am going to let's make like a cat's eye type of thing. I'm going to create a new layer. Unlock the bottom one. And I'm just going to draw something that looks like this. And maybe little lines that go like that. And make those black. And we'll make the base of it yellow. And we'll give it a black outline. And okay, and remember how I said, stay away from outlines. We're going to take this outline and we're going to modify shape, convert to fills. All right. We'll add a few more touches to this. Maybe some cell shading. I can't go any brighter on this level, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Toon Titan plugin, sample, bring it into Toon Titan, and that gives me a shade for it. A little higher, a little brighter. There we go. So I'll select that shadow and paint that section there, and select that highlight and maybe use that to paint this here. Rid of that. That's good enough. Maybe put a little heavy highlight right there. So that takes care of the pupil. We're gonna go outside a couple levels. So because the pupil itself is reusable in pretty much every instance where this eye shows up, editing the pupil is really easy. So this is a completely different eye. So we're gonna have to edit that pupil individually, but we're gonna cheat. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna grab this pupil. I'm gonna grab the artwork to that pupil. Copy. Double click again, double click again. Nope, that's not that one. We need to double click the sprite for the pupil. So see, that's a completely different pupil. And paste in place. And I'm gonna take this, just kind of tweak it a bit. So that was an easy fix. Let's see here. Break it apart. And we'll turn that into a guide and hide it. So we have that. So, I mean, the pupil itself is very easy because it's a reusable symbol, so that it'll be saving across all this other stuff. Now, let's see. We have a question. So, do lashes for the eye, you would go back to the top eye layer, to the bottommost layer, and that's what I'm going to do next. So, if we go to the eye and we want to modify the eyelashes, we're going to double click the eye. And we find the symbol that we want to edit. So normally, you see, there's a lot of eye symbols, all right? So we're going to start with the first eye on frame 1. Double click. The eyelash is part of the base layer, the bottom one, yeah. So let's see here. I'm going to hide these. I'm going to hide the top two. I'm just going to focus on the bottom one. I'm going to double click on this bottom layer again to go into the raw element for this shape. So here, I can get rid of that. I don't recommend modifying this section here. You can still do it, but it's a little bit more work because you're going to have to duplicate this as part of your mask. I'll go ahead and do it to demonstrate it, but I don't recommend you do it. I recommend keeping the actual eye shape the same whenever possible, unless you just flat out want to do something completely different. And of course, you know, you can always use Puppet Producer to re-rig that eye again. So I got rid of that eyelash, and I'm going to draw on a separate layer, move it below, just so I can draw stuff like this. So I have that at the bottom. I'm not messing with the white portion. So I can now have new eyelashes. If I go out by double clicking, 1, 2, I can see how it's all laid out, the 3 different layers. See, this top layer is hiding the pupil. The pupil is on top of the image layer, and the image layer is at the bottom. All right, when we lock everything together, we can see that right there like that. So that's how you add eyelashes. But of course, we only did that to the first eye symbol. I'm going to double click to go outside again. Go to frame 2. I might want to go in this one, double click again until I get to the base element. And in there, I want to do my changes so they match up with the new art style that I'm working with. I'll go out. I'll go to frame 3. You know, do my changes to that. Go out once, go out twice. Go to frame 4. Keep double clicking until you get to the bottom, the most basic layer, and then we wait for the autosave to complete. We'll delete that, and I'm going to use the paint behind option of my brush. So I can do that. So now we have more eyelashes there. And then you go to frame 5, same thing, double click, double click. Now once you click on stuff and it becomes highlighted, that means you're at the bottommost level. If you're using the paint behind feature, then you could just, you know, paint behind the shape, or you can use multiple layers. You do your own artwork, you know, you handle your own artwork the way you want. Use your own creative judgment. Double click outside. But I definitely don't recommend modifying the shape of the eye and stuff. You can do stuff like adding shades, like a cool little thing that people do is they divide up the eyes, and they'll make like the top part a little bit darker, and it gives it a nice little effect. If you want to spend the time doing it, go for it. You know, it'll only make your artwork a lot more nicer. So I have 2 different colors, so you can do stuff like that. It kind of gives it a nice little, like a shade effect on the eye. You can do stuff like that, but I don't recommend modifying the actual shape itself, because then you'll have to do it twice. If I go to the front eye, for example, let's say I want my eye to be different. I'm going to the bottommost level, make sure it's unlocked. If I want to change the shape of this white portion to be more rounder, that's when we start getting into trouble. Okay, because I changed the image base of the eye. So now when I go out, well, the mask is using this shape here. So the mask is going to make it so that when this pupil comes out, it's going to become invisible here. You're going to see this whole white area. So I'll demonstrate it here. Oops. So here, the character moves his eyeball downwards, and you can see what happens. That original shape is masking out the pupil right there, but now we have this extra shape that we're going to deal with. So now you have to go do extra work. We'll go into the second image layer at the bottom. We'll need to grab that shape, the new shape that you created, go outside. We'll go to the top layer, double click in there to edit it. Sometimes pasting in place will work, sometimes it won't. It depends on where you're at. So in this case, it left some stuff behind, so we have to adjust it. Sometimes it's just not worth it, you know, the time and effort. Just leave the eye alone. As far as the shape of the white, it'll be better. Unless you're creating completely new eyes, then knock yourself out, and at that point use Puppet Producer to reconfigure the full eye. It'll be a lot easier that way. So we go out. When we activate this mask, now it's coming all the way down here. The shape in place didn't work quite well. I needed to push it a little bit higher. But yeah, you know, in general, don't mess with the eye white if you can avoid it. But you know, eyelashes and pupils, very easy to fix, very easy to modify. Okay. Same thing with eyebrows. If I want to edit the eyebrows, when I double click in there, I have all these other eyebrows. I can click in there, click any of these eyebrows. We can do little things like that. Double click, go outside, change the next one, double click until you get to the raw image, and just kind of make your modifications as needed. You know, keep it all consistent. Double click to go outside. The main thing is that you don't want to break anything up, and you don't want to mess with the instance names. You don't want to get rid of these pivot points. What else? Any other questions in the chat room? I think I may have covered everything. So now, let's see here. We have K1 bubbles, for example. Let's say that you have gone through the trouble of modifying. Actually, let's use the Cobra Kai example. Let's say that you've gone through the trouble of modifying, that you built a new shirt for your character. You're not necessarily making a full character, but you built a new set of a new shirt, a new set of pants. You're ready to bring that into CrazyTalk. So we're gonna use this one, the Cobra Kai one, because I've completed the full mod. I have the shoes, I have the pants, I have the shirt. So let's say I've completed my modification at this point. So we're going to export it, modify, export movie. We'll leave the name alone, Cobra Kai mod, Cobra Kai. And we're going to launch CrazyTalk. And we want to apply this. You always want to start with a similar character that you're working with already. So I'm going to use Kevin. But technically you can use any G2 character. I'm going to duplicate him because I'm going to leave him over here just as a comparison character. All right, so I have duplicated him. I'm going to go into composer mode. And because we are building with the K1 template, any body part, anything that we built for him, any modification, is gonna line up exactly. Okay, so it has all this structure. That's one of the benefits of it. So here we are with the Kevin model. We're gonna import the SWF here. There's the Cobra Kai SWF file. You can leave a lot of these joint mask settings and stuff like that intact if you want to save yourself the trouble of reconfiguring stuff. But for the shirt and stuff, he's using a lot of the stuff already modified, so you know the colors are going to be different. I'm just not going to click on anything. It's totally on you how you want to import it. I mean, it is the same template, so the bone structure is going to be the same. A lot of where the joint masks are going to be exactly where they are. So it's two compatible models off of the same template. Let's see here. All right, so here is our character imported, and let me take a look at a couple things. So at this point, let's say I really only want the shirt, the pants, and the shoes. I'm gonna use this confirm multi-angle settings real quick just to kind of get the alignment properly based on the template. So I'll put everything back in place. And for the most part, it should be fine. You know, you can double test certain things, double check them, you know. Let's see here, scene manager, joint masks, if you want. So here you may want to go in here and just make the hip region a little bit bigger, just to avoid some of the little things that could creep up. But see, I mean, because I did the template at a specific layer, this is probably not even something you have to do. I mean, in other templates you do have to do it because they really didn't keep in mind the layering from the start. But the K1 template has a lot of that stuff built into the layering system alone, so you won't have to do a lot of these things. All right, so that's just a quick sample. You can go through the whole thing if you want. So let's say we're gonna save this as a shirt. We'll go to Content Manager, Custom, Body. We'll select Upper, and we'll call this. We'll create a new folder here. Let's see. Under the Custom tab, we'll put it under Upper, and we'll create, I'll go ahead and create a new, actually I already have one, but I'll do this one. I'll do shirts. And in this folder, I'm going to call it, I'm going to click this plus up button, and we're focusing just on the upper body. So we got plus. And we'll call it skeleton shirt. Now I'm going to extract the bottoms, the pants. We'll go to lower. That's again, new folder, pants. Go in there. We'll add we'll call it skeleton pants. And we'll go one more time. We'll go to the shoes, and we'll go to new folder. We don't have to do new folders, I mean, on this one, because they're all kind of lumped in there, but you can divide them like sports, like sporty, or you can do K1 shoes. So, I mean, so you know that they're more compatible with the K1 template. So yeah, K1, because I mean, there's going to be different templates. I mean, you can sort out your different folders based on, you know, Real Lusion dummy shoes, or, you know, the Billy shoes or whatever. So here we go. Sneakers. Okay, so, and that's it. We don't have to worry about saving this whole character. It served this purpose, you know. He served this purpose for the purpose of bringing in just what we want. All right, you don't want to, unless you're creating an entire character, there's no need to save the full character, because we also have, you know, the base model to work from. You know, you bring in your original, the actual fully rigged Kevin character. We got our fully rigged base. Now this is a base model that has everything already configured. It has the joint masks set up. It has the skin colors already mapped out. It has the eyes already adjusted. So everything is rigged the way he needs to be. So now we're ready to dress him up. So we'll bring him into composer mode. And we'll go to the body, upper. Let's see here. We're going to give him that skeleton shirt that we just built. And we're going to give him, let's give him the skinny jeans. And let's give him the sneakers that we've made. So by doing it this way, you grab the base model, and on top of the base model, you bring in the new assets that you extracted. This ensures that we have the fully edited in like rigged up hands with the color stuff, so that we can still come back. Let's see here. Let's push those shoes to the back a bit. Runtime composer. Oops, that's the wrong one. Now we'll just use this layering thing real quick. quickly adjust the layering. Okay, so that's not a layering issue, that's a mask issue. So we'll tweak that a bit. Let's see here. We can just use the runtime composer joint mask. We'll just move that joint mask out of the way there. We'll get out of that. So that takes care of that. But you can see how the body, because it's the same template, the different body parts match and they line up perfectly. So here's a character with a different configuration. He has the skeleton shirt, he has the skinny jeans, and he has the sneakers instead of the Kevin shoes, the Kevin leather shoes. Later on, if I want to come back here, let's say I want him to have the pants, the skeleton pants. I just bring him in. Alright, and let's say maybe I want the different shoes because I have all the other types of shoes. Maybe I want him to have bare feet. Now these are already been created and extracted from the original base model, but I mean, you can create all sorts of different shoes and start saving them. So that's the bare feet, and here's the dress shoes. So I mean, that's pretty much how it works. You go into the template, you edit the template. I mean, most of the times you're not going to be building an entire character. Most of the times you're just going to want to edit something. Maybe you like the shirt, right? Body, let's see here. Upper. I mean, you have that, maybe you have the t-shirt, and I wonder if this thing is in here. But let's say that you have created a shirt and you really just want to change the shirt. You want to change the logo. Let's see here. No, it doesn't have it. It doesn't come with it. But here's my Kevin cloth template. So getting a logo inside of a shirt, let's say that you went through the trouble in building your own shirt and later on you want to add a logo to it. So you'll have to go to the template that you built. Okay. So you added a logo to the shirt, and you want this character to have it. We're going to export, and all we did is modify the shirt. So we'll call it skull shirt, That's the only part of this character that we're focusing on. We're not, I mean, we didn't create a new character, we just modified the shirt. So you start with any base model inside of CrazyTalk. And here's our skull shirt. Let's go ahead, and this time we'll keep the joint mask settings. That way all the characters' joint masks are the same. Bring it in. So we're getting ready to close today's stream. If anybody else has any other questions that they'd like me to address before we close, let me know. That way we can take care of it while we're here. So there's our shirt with the logo. And what we do is go to Scene Manager, the Content Manager, go to Upper, go to Shirt. You save it. Call it Skull Shirt. All right. So in the future, now I have two different options for my shirts. You know, if I have a character, I'm like, oh, I need a character, but I want him to be wearing the skull shirt. I could just select that character. I'm gonna do this one here. Modify. And body, upper, we'll use the skull shirt. Now here's another point. Again, we're working with the K1 template, so anything you design with the K1 template is pretty much going to be compatible in terms of proportions right off the bat with K1 items. So this was a K1 character. We brought in a K1 shirt. It fits perfectly on your model. So the joint regions, everything works fine. You know? Because he's a K1. He's going to work on anything with the K1 base model. Now, here we have a different character, which is not based off of the K1 template. This is a completely new template. This is going to be called the L1 for Laney. The L1 model, significantly different than the K1 model. Now, body parts are going to be compatible in the way that you can move them around, sprite switch them and stuff, but proportion wise it's going to require work for you to get them to work, if you can get them to work. So here we have Laney. I'm just going to duplicate her, and I'm going to go into composer mode, and I'm going to give her that skull shirt. And you're going to see the difference here because it's two different templates, two different body proportions. I'm going to bring in, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to apply the shirt here. I'm going to give her the skull shirt. Okay. I mean, compatibility wise, yeah, it worked. It's there. She's wearing the skull shirt. She looks weird. I mean, she obviously doesn't have the boobs, you know. So she lost her boobs. She has a taller, like longer torso, really thin, shorter arms in relation to her body. You can get it in there, but it's it may require some work to even get it to look like something normal. So in general, you want to stick to body modifications based off of the same template. Use K1 mods for characters that are built off of K1. Use Billy mods for characters that are based off of Billy, and the real Lusion stuff. You know, use the Real Lusion stuff for the Real Lusion characters, because they're just different design styles, they're different body proportions, and they just don't necessarily line up. Although, but you can make it work. I mean, it just depends on what you're doing. I mean, in many cases, this might be what you want. We might be able to do something by adjusting this a little bit. Let's see here. I mean, there's some things you can do to a certain extent. Unfortunately, you don't have access to that warping tool, that that weird transform tool that allows you to modify things around. It would be great if you did, because that would allow us to tweak the proportions and make them work, you know, better. But so in general, try to use body modifications that belong, even though they are compatible. I mean, you can bring them in here, but it's just going to look weird. So try to use the K1 body mods on the K1 template mods on the K1 characters. If there's a lot of people building body parts and building characters that are, you know, K1 compatible, excuse me, there's going to be a lot of options. Here's the K1 K1 Bubbles. I'm going to export him. And I'm going to switch back to CrazyTalk. I'm going to grab this copy of Kevin. And we're going to import our bubbles template. We're going to keep a lot of this stuff the same. Okay, and I'm only focusing on the pants. All right, let's say I only want the pants or the shirt, or, you know, maybe I just want the eyes. Let's see, body. I'm gonna save the hands, not the hands. I'm gonna save the shirt first. I'm gonna call it creature shirt. And we'll do the pants. If you're doing a complete character, then by all means, save the full character. In most cases, your use of the template is really going to be just to modify certain body parts, and I recommend only focusing on that and only bringing in that one body part that you modified, and then applying that to the fully configured base model. Let's see. I mean, you can do an entire body. So like in this one, I have the skeleton suit. I have the Kevin body, the M1 crewman suit. So I can call this creature suit. So you only extract what you need. All right, so we don't need this. We can throw him away. And you usually always want to start with a clean base model. It's taking a while to delete. Bum, 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 bum. All right, so usually when you want to start with a clean base model, either the Kevin base model or the K1. Let's see here. So here we have, I mean, we have the Kevin base, which is the nude, which is basically the raw K1 in the form of a fully rigged up character. Or we have Kevin, which already starts with the shirt, pants, and shoes. I like to go back to as raw format as possible to the nude Kevin base. And then we go into composer mode. So let's say I want to give them the creature pants. Bottom. Notice how they're going to fit perfectly because it's built off of the same template. And then we're going to add them, give them an upper body. Of course, I can give them a t-shirt. You know, I can give them the skeleton t-shirt. I mean the skull t-shirt that we built. The more items you create, the more options you're going to have to mix and match. Now, you guys can make a lot of money off of this, you know, just building shirts, just building different options, pants, shoes. There's a lot of demand for stuff like this. People have the space model, and there's not that many options out there for dressing him up and doing that. And not everybody has the capacity to go into Flash or Animate and edit the source file. So if you do, I mean, if you take the plunge and go into the source file and edit the stuff directly from the source, then you know you can come up with all sorts of options. You can resell all of that stuff. I mean, upload it to the Real Lusion marketplace or build your own website where you sell your your stuff. Make your own creature shop. So there we go. Let's see, shoes. I don't think I saved the feet. Let's give him some shoes. Kevin's feet are by default on top of his shins. I did that on purpose because I wanted to have more options in what goes behind there. But sometimes you might not want that. Whenever that happens, you know, just adjust your joint mask. Just adjust your joint mask a bit, and it'll show up once you actually go into the stage mode. Let's see. I'm having a hard time getting my controller to work, but you get the idea on that. Let's see here. You can use the layering options too, like on this shirt. Maybe I want that torso, that bottom thing to show up. Let's being a little slow. Come on. Doesn't want to give me the layer panel. There it is. So I take the hip, move it above the upper torso. That should give it to me. Okay. Wants to make a liar out of me. Where's my joint mask? There it is. So maybe I want something like that. Or I could just put it up like that. So that's up to you on how you do that stuff. I mean, all that stuff is modifiable. You know, once you make your own mods and, you know, you start tweaking around how you want it to best be displayed. And people, when they start animating it, they're going to find themselves adjusting those things anyways a lot. So let's see here. What else can we cover? I think we've covered everything. So yeah, use the template to build your own hair packs, eye packs, you know, eyebrows, shirts, pants, shoes, whatever. Or make your entire new characters based off of the template. Selling them, you know, if you want to sell your own creations, go for it. You know, the template is a royalty-free thing. Grab it, modify it, do whatever you want with it. It's yours. Just you know, have fun with it. What else? Anybody have any questions before we close today? Let's see here. All right, guys, please, if you're going to be, if you want questions answered while I'm streaming, don't send them to my Facebook because I'm not looking at it while I'm working. So send them directly to the YouTube chat. Which program are you using, Standard, Pro, or Pipeline? I am using, well, I'm not using any. I'm using Flash for this. So, let's see, for the development. Okay, so yeah, if you're looking at this video and you're still having questions about that, which, well, I mean the question is, which program am I using, Standard, Pro, or Pipeline? I'm not using any. I'm using Flash. I mean, this you build the templates inside of Flash, inside of Animate, and you do all your editing in there. You know, it has very powerful drawing tools. And the whole decoding stuff that needs to be done in order for CrazyTalk to read it. As far as which version of CrazyTalk you need in order to make use of these templates, you need the Pipeline version. It's the only version that has the ability to import the SWF templates as a complete bulk. So if you're looking to work with templates, then definitely get the Pipeline version of CrazyTalk Animator. Or Cartoon Animator 4, which is the next version that's going to be coming out. It's the only version that's going to allow you to continue importing entire templates. Now, everything you learned or everything you looked at in this stream today pretty much applies to any template, okay? It's not just the K1, it's not just my templates. Any template out there that's developed for use with CrazyTalk uses the same construction principles. Don't remove the pivot points. Don't change the instance names. Don't delete the symbols because that's going to break everything. Simply double click the symbol that you want to edit and continue to double click until you get to the basic raw elements. maybe create a separate layer, edit as needed. Only focus on the body parts that you need. Unless you're creating an entire character, there's usually not a need to edit everything. Sometimes you just want to edit the eyes. Sometimes you want to edit the eyebrows. Sometimes you just want a new shirt. Just focus on that. Once you have done your whole shirt for all the different 10 angles, import it into CrazyTalk Animator, extract the shirt the way that I showed you, and now you'll have a reusable shirt that you can apply to any other K1 based or compatible figure, compatible character. Let's see, more review. If you can avoid using outlines, please avoid using outlines. There's a lot of bugs related to them. If you want cell shading and stuff like that, you can do cell shading. I mean, it's your characters, your construction, it's your artwork. You do it whatever you want. I recommend that global shading technique where you overlaying the shadows and stuff. That way, later on, if you want to change the shirt's color, you're not wasting two more vector groups on other colors, and the shadows and highlights. They're gonna stay consistent. Selling your stuff, you can sell whatever you want. Anything you create with this K1 template is yours. It's your creation. You're only using my construction methods. You know, you're only using my configuration. It's royalty free. You can build your own shirts. You can build your own characters. You can build anything you want out of there. I mean, just don't go and just change the color and then sell it and think, you know, and just call it a new character, because that's not a new character. I want you guys to be creative. Give me something new, guys, something that I'm gonna buy, because if you build some cool assets and stuff, I'm probably gonna be buying those too for my own usage. You know, I'm gonna see you making your own shirts and selling them, and I don't have that. I might want that for my own usage, so I'm probably gonna end up buying a lot of this stuff back from you. You know, go ahead, you know, build eyes. You know, it's amazing how just changing the eyes alone on a character is enough to make them look like a different character. So if you're somebody who wants to focus on just building new sets of eyes, build eyes. That's something that's very needed. Build hands. There's always going to be a need for different types of hands. Build pants. Build entire characters. You know, Halloween. Right now, we're about 9 months away from Halloween. Get a good start, man. Get a good start on it. You know, build all sorts of creatures for Halloween. Get started on the Christmas stuff. You can build a bunch of cool Christmas characters. If you start now, you'll have a lot of stuff to sell by the time the holidays come around. So other than that, yeah, just don't turn around and sell Kevin as Kevin. Build your own characters and royalty free. You know, I'm not gonna stand in the way of you making your money. Puppet Producer, you do not need Puppet Producer to edit the templates. Of course, if you are planning on using Puppet Producer and stuff like that, just keep in mind Puppet Producer is really just for the sake of creating stuff from scratch. If you're using Puppet Producer, you probably don't need the templates. You use one or the other. You'll use Puppet Producer to build these templates, and these templates are used to build something based off of the same model. That's why all the Lusion stuff looks the same. That's why all the K1's gonna have the same body structure. That's why all the Billy stuff has the big heads and small bodies and stuff like that. Yeah, keep the body parts consistent. I recommend that if you are releasing your own body parts, your own modifications, use the K1 designation. Let people know that your stuff is compatible with K1. That way they know that if they have the Kevin base model and they buy your stuff, that they can take your body parts or your character and mix and match to create new stuff, and that's going to be compatible. So yeah, use the K1 designation to let people know, hey, this character or this clothing set is compatible with K1. Same thing with the other templates, you know, the M1, the B1, L1, which is coming out next week. Oh, there's a Sean character, S1. He's a villain. He's gonna be really cool. You guys are gonna love him. So, but they all have different body types. So whenever you're building characters based off of these body types, these body templates, use the designation based on the template. You know, in this case, it's the K1. Let people know that your body parts are compatible with this template. That way, if they buy body parts from other developers, from me, from anybody else, as long as they know that, okay, this is K1, all those body parts are going to be interchangeable. They're going to work beautifully together, and it's going to be more options for the people who don't know how to draw to be able to mix and match body parts and create their own original creations, configurations. All right, guys, this was fun. I'm glad I finally got this out of the way. It took about an hour longer than I wanted it to be, but I think we did manage to cover off all the basic key elements in working with the K1 template and working with templates in general. Stick around later on. I'm going to do some more streams like this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let's see here. No more last minute questions. That's good. I think we got everything covered. To everybody who's still here live with me in the stream, enjoy you know, the rest of it. You can go back and rewind it, watch anything that you may have missed. And thanks, Chase. I'm glad I was able to do this for you guys. And again, if you have more questions, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to me. This was a tutorial that was a direct response to Chase. He recently purchased the K1 template, and he wanted to know more about how to build it, and I realized that I hadn't done a full tutorial on it, so this was something that was necessary. So don't be afraid. You know, reach out to me, let me know if there's things that you want to know, send me emails, contact me on social media, leave comments, and we'll build streams around your questions and stuff. And I love doing the streams because it allows people to just kind of, you know, spontaneously reach out, post questions there that otherwise I wouldn't have thought of, and then I have to make more videos to explain those. At least we keep those together here. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This was fun. This was great. Enjoy the rest of your days, and feel free to share this video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these more often. I'm trying to get a little bit more professional in the way I do my streams, and it's going to get better. But one thing that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go back and edit these things. I want these things to stay the way they are. If I make mistakes, I want you guys to see the mistakes that I make, because that's how we learn how to correct them and stuff. I don't want you guys to be confused about, well, how did he fix it or whatever. It's more spontaneous that way too. I love it. All right, signing off. Yeah, subscribe. There's a little bell down there. If you click it, you get notified as soon as I go live and stuff. What else? That's it. Still looking for the button. Like I said, I'm still learning how to do this. There's no, I don't do the Patreon thing. I don't ask for donations, but I do have stuff to sell. So if you enjoy what I do, you want to support my efforts, go to my website, toontitan.com. There might be something in there that you might like. Buy it. You help yourself, and you help me out a little bit. You know, helps me keep going with this kind of stuff. And found the button. Have a great day, guys.